Good evening, children. Welcome to Trinity Tutorials. Keeping in view of this present situation, I am planning to discuss some of the important 10 marks questions for the civics second years. So, in your first chapter, there is one important question, that is the salient features of the Indian Constitution. So, we are going to discuss about that question. What are the features of the Indian Constitution? So, before we go into this features of the Indian Constitution, let us see that what are the different types of constitutions are existing at present. So, we have two types of constitutions are there in the world. One is written constitution, other one is unwritten constitution. One is written constitution, other one is unwritten constitution. So, written constitution, you know that it is written and kept it, so and based on the whatever it is recorded, that we are going to follow that. But whereas this unwritten constitution, there are some countries which are following this unwritten constitution. Example, New Zealand, UK and Israel are following this unwritten constitution. That means their country's constitution is not written. They follow only the treaties or the conventions and the precedents. Precedent means those previously those were the leaders in the previous years, whatever they did and whatever the rules and regulations what they followed, that will be followed by the in the future also. That is an unwritten constitution which is followed by some of the countries. Whereas a written constitution, Indian constitution is a written constitution. Indian constitution is a very lengthy constitution and it is very well written constitution under the leadership of under the chairmanship of the Dr. Bhimrao Babasaheb Ambedkar. The Constitution Assembly was formed and they have studied different constitutions in the world and they have framed our constitution. So now we are going to study about the features of the Indian Constitution. The first feature of this Indian Constitution is that the first one is written and detailed constitution. Written and detailed constitution. Indian Constitution is a written constitution and it consists of almost 395 articles, and this it is divided into 22 parts and 8 schedules. So first one is written and detailed constitution. This written Indian Constitution is a written constitution and it consists of 395 articles and it is divided into 22 parts and 8 schedules also. So in that constitution, all the matters relating to the union and the states and the union territories and about the UPSC, that Union Public Service Commission, appointments in the Union Public Service Commission, and the territories of like regarding the protection of SC, STs and the BCs, all these things are mentioned very clearly in our constitutions. Then it also there are provisions regarding the Election Commission, UPSC, that is Union Public Service Commission, and the State Public Service Commission. All these things are also mentioned in the Indian Constitution. Then apart from that, there are also mentioned about the fundamental rights, directive principles, and the union and the state relations. All these things are mentioned in our Constitution. That is why Indian Constitution is a very lengthy constitution and everything is detailed. In detail it is mentioned. The first feature of the Indian Constitution is written and detailed constitution. Okay, now we see the second feature. The second feature is India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So with the adoption of this constitution, India became a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So that means the role of the state is securing the social, economic and political justice to all the people of our country. That means the role of the state is, what is the role of the state here? The role of the state is giving the social, economic and political justice to all the people. That is what it mentioned in the constitution. That is providing the freedom to all the people with fundamental rights, and they also believe in the democracy. The constitution believes in the democracy, then it has to provide the freedom to the people with the fundamental rights. Then apart from that, it also continues to be a republic with an elected head of the state. If we have an elected head of the state, that means our president is an elected person, elected by the state legislative members and the parliamentarians also. So both the MPs and MLAs, they will be electing our president. So that is why, so it continues to be a republic with an elected head of the state. Then apart from that, it also provides all the citizens the freedom of religion. We have a full freedom of religion according to the constitution. the freedom of religion is also given, and it also gives that to respect all the religions also. So this is the second one. India is a sovereign, socialist, secular and democratic republic. So after adopting this Indian constitution, India became a socialist, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. The role of the state in this is to secure the social, economical and political justice to all the people. It also provides freedom to all the people with the fundamental rights, and they also believe in the democracy, and we also have a elected head of the state. That means indirectly you will be elected the state legislative members, and the MPs will be electing the president of India. And then the constitution also provides citizens the freedom of religion and respecting the each and every religion. So this is the second point. Okay, then now we see the third feature of the Indian constitution. First two features we have seen. First one is written and detailed constitution. Second one is India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Third one is noble aims and objectives. So there are some noble aimed objectives are given by our constitution. Indian constitution provides all the citizens justice, social, economical and political matters. Justice is given in all the matters related to the social, economical and the political matters. That is one of the feature of the Indian constitution. Apart from that, it also provides all the citizens a liberty of thought. I mean, you have a freedom of thought, you can freedom of expression, you have a freedom in believing anything. So believe, faith and worship, all these things are given by our constitution. That means you have a full freedom, you have a full liberty, thought of expression, thought of belief and faith and worship. You can worship any god. So these things are mentioned in our constitution. It also provides equality and opportunity. Also, all the equal opportunity should be provided for every citizen of our country, irrespective of the caste, creed, community. Everybody is treated equally. That is why it is called as a noble aims and objectives. That is one of the feature of our Indian constitution. So the fourth feature of our Indian constitution is the combination of rigidity and flexibility. That means our constitution is, in some cases it is very difficult, that is very rigid to make any changement or amendments in the constitution, and in some cases it is flexible also. That means very easy also, with a simple majority we can change the constitution. That is why it is called as the combination of rigidity and flexibility. So Indian constitution can be amended rigid and flexible methods. Both methods it can be. Some cases it is very difficult to change the constitution, lot of procedure is there. Then in some cases with a simple majority or with a simple procedure it can be amended. So the Union Parliament can amend some parts of the constitution with a simple majority. So Parliament sometimes it can with a simple majority they can amend the some of the constitution, some of the articles in the constitution with a very simple majority also. So for example here, formation of the states, new states, for example Telangana states which has formed, so that was in the parliament only with a simple majority they have accepted, and the Telangana state is bifurcated. The Andhra and Telangana are bifurcated, that is they are separated. So that is what a simple majority only. So the formation of the new states can be one of the things which a very simple majority it can be done. Then the changing of the names of the states also. Suppose if they want to change the name of the state, for example previously it was Madras, its name was changed into Chennai, isn't it? So that is changing the names of the states also can be with a very flexible method only. With a simple majority in the parliament they can amend that constitution also. Then there are some rules and regulations, rules of the citizens also. Citizenship can also be with a simple majority it can be changed. So these things can be amended with a very simple majority. That is why it is a flexible constitution. But there are some cases are there where it is very rigid. So some matters relating to the fundamental rights or directive principles, it requires at least 2/3 majority in the parliament. At least minimum 2/3 majority must be there to make any amendments or to any changes in the fundamental rights and the directive principles of the mentioned in the constitution also. In some cases there are some special majority of 2/3 of in both the houses of the parliament. Then apart from that, 50% of the states has to accept that and they have to send it to the central government. So 50% of the total states in India has to approve that change. Then only it will become a law. So that is why it is a very rigid constitution and flexible also. Some cases where it can be amended with a 2/3 majority. For example, like rights and fundamental rights and directive principles, only the 2/3 majority is required in the parliament. But in some cases, the special majority of 2/3 members in both the houses of the parliament and 50% of the states has to be accept that amendment. Then only it become a law. So then that is why hence our constitution is a combination of rigid and flexible constitution. Okay, the fifth feature of the Indian constitution is unitary and federal features. So the constitution provides federal structure with a unitary spirit. That means our Indian constitution provides for a federal structure. Indian parliamentary system is a federal structure with a unitary spirit. First we will see what are the federal features of our which we are following. Constitution of India gives us federal structure. So in the federal structure, a division of powers between the center and the state. So that means the powers are distributed between the center and the states. So some powers are given to the centers and some powers are given to the states also. Then, so that is why center should not involve, center should not command the states. States have their rights in some matters, the central government has some rights on some of the subjects also. That is why in the unitary system, division of powers are there between the center and the state also. Then second one, in the unitary, in the federal system, where we have a written, rigid and the supreme constitution. So in the federal system, our constitution is a supreme, our constitution is a written constitution and a rigid constitution also. That is also one of the federal features. Then we have an independent judiciary. The Indian federal system, we have an independent judiciary. That means our judicial system is not under anybody's influence. Either it is under the central government or on the state government hands. It has an independent structure and they don't come under anybody. They have an independent structure. They are independent judiciary. So we have an independent judiciary. Then next we have a dual administration. That means dual administration means both we have a central administration, central government administration. At the same time, in the states we have a state governments also have a separate administration. That is why in the federal structure we have a dual administration, that is a central administration at the central government and at the center in the central government, and the states have a different states have their own administration also. These are some of the features of this federal structure. Then what is the unitary state? So it is a constitution provides us a federal structure with a unitary spirit. So that means what is this unitary state? In the unitary states, it provides a very strong center. So we have a very strong center with a common constitution and a single citizenship. So we have a strong center at the central government. At the same time, states are also given some subjects or some powers to them. But mainly, whatever the amendments and whatever the main rules and regulations which are made by the central government only. So and apart from that, we are also having a common election commission. At the states have separate election commissions are there. At the same time, we have a central election commission also there. So then common all the civil services also, all India services, all the civil services are conducted by the central government only, that IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS, all these things, the civil servants are also, all these exams are also conducted by the central government only. So this is about the unitary or what is called as a unitary state or the union spirit also. So the fifth subheading is unitary and the federal features. In the federal features, powers are distributed between the center and the states, and it is a written, rigid and a supreme constitution, and we have independent judiciary. And other thing is we have a dual administration with the central and the state administrations are separated. That is why it is a dual administration. Whereas in the unitary state, we have by providing very strong center. We have a strong center and a common constitution and a single citizenship also. Then we have a common election commission and a common all India services also. So these are some of the features under this unitary and the federal features. The next sixth one is parliamentary government. One of the features of our constitution is that Indian system has a parliamentary government. Our Constitution of India provides a parliamentary system of government at the center as well as in every state of the union. So at the center we have a parliamentary system of government, and as well as in every state we have a government also. So this system is adopted from the British Parliament system of the government. When the constitution is adopted or constitution is written, this system, the parliamentary system, is adopted from the British government only. So here in our constitution, the parliament, the president of India is the constitutional head of state with a nominal powers. Our president is is the constitutional head of the state, and but he is having a very minimum powers. The nominal powers are given to him. The most of the powers are in the hands of the Council of Ministers, headed by the Prime Minister of India only. So whatever the Prime Minister recommends or the Council of Ministers recommends, the president has to accept them. That is why president is a nominal, is having a very nominal powers. Most of the powers are in the hands of the Council of Ministers, headed by the Prime Minister of India. This is the parliamentary government. That is also one of the features of our constitution. Okay, the next seventh feature of the Indian constitution is independent judiciary. Already we have discussed that Indian judiciary system is independent. The Constitution of India granted independent and integrated judiciary for the Indians. So that means our judiciary system independent. It will not come under anybody's influence. So judges are appointed by the president only by the recommendation of the Prime Minister. The president will appoint the judges. Here in the judges, only the persons with very high level qualifications and good experience will be appointed as the judges, either in the Supreme Court or in the High Courts also. It is recommended by the Prime Minister of India or the Council of Ministers to the President. President will appoint the judges to the High Court and the Supreme Courts also. Then Supreme Court's judges cannot be removed from the office except through an extremely difficult process called as an impeachment. There is a process called as an impeachment that will be discussed in the later in the other chapters. So there is a process called as an impeachment to remove the Supreme Court judges. It is not very easy to remove the Supreme Court judges. There is a procedure is there. That procedure is called as an impeachment, appointed by the President of India only. But whenever it comes, any allegations are there on the judges of the Supreme Court or any misconduct or any complaints are there, to remove them there is a procedure is there. That procedure is called as an impeachment. So that is also there. Though the salaries of the judges are also very high, then Indian judiciary has an autonomous organization and the state. It is autonomous. It doesn't come under anybody's influence. It is an autonomous body and it has given a independent status also. So this is about the judiciary system, one of the features of the Indian Constitution. The eighth feature of the Indian Constitution is directive principles of state policy. Directive principles of state policy. Our Constitution has brought forward these directive principles as a policy of the state at the part of 4th from the Articles of 36 to 51. Article 36 to 51, these directive principles are mentioned in the Constitution. These directive principles are adopted or are taken from the Irish Constitution. So this is taken, the idea is taken from the Irish Constitution only. So that is why these directive principles are mentioned in the articles from 36 to 51 in the Indian Constitution. So these principles enable the state government to provide new social order based on economic, political and social justice. What are these directive principles? Directive principles are given to the state governments for the social order and based on economic, social and political justice, to give the people, to treat the people equally in social, economic and political sense. That is what is mentioned in the about this directive principles. Under these directive principles are included some of the important things are provision of employment to the people. So providing the employment to the people is one of the main objectives, should be one of the main objectives of the governments. That is the duty of the government. That is one of the directives given to the state governments. Then fair distribution of the wealth. That means whatever the wealth is there, that wealth should be distributed equally to the citizens of our country. That means the inequalities in the society should not be there. That equal distribution of the wealth should be given to the people of the country. Then equal pay for the equal work. So there should not be any bias, there should not be any discrimination between the women and the men. So equal work, equal pay. whatever work, both male and female, whatever work they did, according to that equal pay must be paid. They should not show any discrimination between the male and the female. Equal work and equal pay is also one of the directive given in the directive principles. Then education and child care for children below the 14 years of age. That means bonded labor or children working in a they are not supposed to make the children bonded labor. So below 14 years of age must be educated. They should be sent to the schools, providing education, free education. All these things should be under this directive principle given to the state governments only. Then unemployment. If the unemployment youth are there, some relief must be given to this unemployment. Some amount should be given in the monthly till they get any employment. So unemployment relief is also one of the directive principles. Then old age pensions. Now most of the governments are doing old age principle, old age pensions, pension schemes. That means people those are after retirement, those are very at the old age. Some government must give some pension to these people so that they can have their wants can satisfy their own needs. Then protection from the ill health. For example, Arogyasri is there, no, one of the health program. So protecting the some ill health people. Suppose you are got some serious health problems. Governments take care of them, free medication will be given, free operations will be done by the government. That is also one of the directive principles of the government. And other thing is conservation of the wildlife and the forest is also comes under this. Protecting the forest, protecting the wildlife is also some of the directive principles which are given by the constitution. So these are this is the 8th one, directive principles of the state policy. Now next we will see the 9th one, 9th feature of the Indian constitution. So that is the fundamental rights. So fundamental rights are incorporated under the part 3 of our constitution. Articles from 12 to 35 that are incorporated in our constitution. So that is nobody, including the government, can allow to interfere in this these fundamental rights. Even government cannot be change the fundamental rights. So this is already incorporated in the constitution. So even government also don't have any right to change or interfere in these fundamental rights. Then at present we have 6 fundamental rights are included in the constitution. That is right to equality, right to freedom, right to against exploitation, right to religion, then cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. These are the 6 fundamental rights that presently are included in the constitution of our country. One is right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to religion, cultural and educational rights, and right to constitutional remedies. So previously there was another right was there, that is the right to property was there in the fundamental rights, but presently it is deleted. So right to property is no more a fundamental right. So these are the fundamental rights which are incorporated in the constitution. Okay. So the constitution provides fundamental rights. At the same time, so there are also some fundamental duties are also mentioned in the constitution. That is also one of the feature of our constitution, fundamental duties. So that means as the constitution provides fundamental rights to enjoy, at the same time we have some duties towards our nation also. So one of the fundamental duties is respecting the constitution. We should respect our constitution. Then we should also respect our national flag and national anthem. The next one is safeguarding the public property. See, when we travel in the buses or trains and whatever the street lights or whatever it is, so these all belongs to the public property. So we should not damage this public property. Then we should not spur any violence. That means we should not encourage any violence, or we should not participate in any violence. Then we should also develop the scientific temper. So that means that to have that rational thinking, that is maybe have broad-minded or scientific thinking should be developed. So these are some of the duties which are mentioned in the constitution of our country. Next feature is single citizenship. So constitution confers single citizens to all these persons who are born in India. That means those who are born in India, we have a single citizenship. Whoever reside in India for a specific period of time, we are living in at a specific period of time, but a particular period of time, if you reside in India, then you become a citizen of this country. So that is also mentioned. That is one of the feature of our constitution, single citizenship. Those who are living in our country for a specific period of time are citizens of this country. The constitution recognizes them as the citizens of this country. That is also one of the feature of our constitution. The next one is universal adult franchise. Universal adult franchise means we all know that those who attained 18 and above years have the right to vote in any election in our country, isn't it? So that without any discrimination, that means the caste, creed, community, religion, if there any discrimination, if you are attained 18 and above years are there, then you are eligible to participate in the vote. And if you have a voter ID card, you can participate or you can cast your vote to any party which you like. So that is called as a universal adult franchise. Those who are attained 18 and above years are eligible to vote. That is called as a universal adult franchise. This is also one of the features of our constitution, which is given by constitution to every citizen of our country. So next feature, one of the next feature which you are going to see is a bicameralism. Bicameralism means Indian Parliament comprises of two houses. Where we have in Indian Parliament, we have two houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. That means that this makes the Indian Constitution adopt. This is adopted from the British and the American type of bicameralism, where we have two houses in the central government, that is in the Parliament. We have two houses. One is Lok Sabha, other one is a Rajya Sabha. That is why it is called as a bicameralism. That is also one of the features of the Indian mentioned in the Indian Constitution. The next one is Panchayat Raj and Nagarpalika Acts. It also mentioned in this is one of the feature in the Constitution is Panchayat Raj and Nagarpalika Acts. That means Panchayat Raj establishing and strengthening the local and the local governments, and the bodies improving the conditions of the people. Local government like municipalities, Grama Panchayats, all these things. So local government should be strengthened so that they can improve the conditions of the people. That is also mentioned in the Constitution. That is also one of the feature of the Indian Constitution. Panchayat Raj and Nagarpalika Acts are also mentioned in our Constitution. Okay, the last feature of Indian Constitution is the special provisions relating to SC and STs. So Indian Constitution has given some certain specific directions to develop the SC and ST in India, that is scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in India. To develop them, Indian Constitution has given certain directions. So based on that, the state government and the central government has to review the steps taken to improve the standard of living of these SC and STs. For that purpose, there are also some commissions are set up to review their situations time to time. So this is about the special provisions related to the SC and ST. That provision is also included in the Indian Constitution. So these are some of the features of the Indian Constitution which we have discussed. Once again, I just want to review from the beginning what are the things which we have discussed. First one is what we have discussed. First one is written and detailed Constitution. Second one is India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Third one is noble aims and objectives. Fourth one is the combination of a rigid and flexible Constitution. Then unitary and federal structure or federal features. Then next one is the parliamentary government. Then independent judiciary. Then directive principles of the state policy. Fundamental rights, fundamental duties. Then single citizenship. Then after that universal adult franchise, bicameralism, Panchayat Raj and Nagarpalika Acts. Then last one is the special provisions relating to the SC and ST. These are some of the features which are mentioned in the Indian Constitution. Thank you children for watching this video. For more updates, please subscribe to our channel Trinity Academy. Thank you so much.